Inside PressBox is presented by Freedmont Mortgage. Don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. Go to Freedmont.com now for all of your mortgage needs. And welcome to another edition of Inside PressBox. I'm your host, Stan the Fan. Charles, you know, the Summer Olympics opened Friday in London, England. And this week, former Olympic skater Kimmy Meisner will join me to give us some insight into what life is like for an Olympian. PressBox columnist and expert collector Ray Schulte of SchulteAuctions.com will also be here to preview the National, which will be held at the Baltimore Convention Center August 1st through 5th. It's the most highly anticipated collectibles show in recent history, and Ray will tell us why. But first, in the wake of the Penn State scandal and the unprecedented penalties handed down by the NCAA, we thought we'd reach out to friend, Towson Athletic Director Mike Waddell, not only for his thoughts on the issues, but also to look at what he's done to build a strong reputation for Towson University through sports. We welcome with us Mike Waddell. And Mike, my first question for you is, you've worked at some higher profile programs in the past, an assistant AD and even lower than that, but at Virginia, North Carolina, Cincinnati, well, you paid your dues to become an athletic director. Have you ever been privy to the type of hero worship that went on in Happy Valley and what that's like to buck up against it?
You know, I have, and Stan, when I was at North Carolina, I worked with the man who I most admire in college sports, the former winningest head coach in men's college basketball history, Dean Smith. And Coach Smith is so revered in North Carolina. He's right up there with Andy Griffith and Richard Petty. I mean, as famous North Carolinians. But when you look at what that program was like when I was working there, we won the national championship in 1993, very similar to Coach Paterno. So there have been a lot of discussions that I've had with colleagues that are formerly with the Carolina department and our Tar Heel Sports Network back then, and we'll sit around and talk about, well, what if we would have seen something, or did we ever see anything, and what would it have been like? And you know, it's an inevitable question, but it's a very different situation if you've never been involved with it. It's almost impossible to describe.
It's like the blade, though, goes both ways. The very things that breed the kind of passion you're trying to recreate here at Towson for the Tigers, if you take a program like Penn State football, North Carolina basketball, the passions are, in a way, they come back and bite you, don't they? Because you're afraid to damage that passion with your fans.
You're always afraid, and but like you say, there's a good and there's a bad with it. You'll see it with Kentucky basketball. When I was at the University of Cincinnati, I saw it a lot with Ohio State football, and sometimes the hubris is what can come back and get you in the end. So if you keep it in perspective, and the one thing that I thought was really great about our situation in North Carolina, when I worked there, the current ACC Commissioner John Swofford was our Director of Athletics, a very strong leader. He had a good handle on things, and while Coach Smith ran the basketball side of Carolina athletics, John Swofford was in control of Carolina athletics, and the president then, or the chancellor as it would be at North Carolina, Chris Fordham, was in control on the academic side. So there was a very strong hierarchy of leadership, and that's why Carolina was able to continue on and make things happen in that era of Tar Heel athletics.
Let me ask you one question. Tell me if I'm off base here. I was asked on a radio talk show, Gary Stein on 105.7 about 3 weeks ago, what kind of penalties do you think will come down against Penn State? And I said, penalties? I don't care what kind of penalties the football program gets. Are we wrong in sort of adjudicating this to football penalties? Isn't it more criminality involved here than whether some punishments are handed out in scholarships and opening up recruitments and things like that?
Sure. I was listening to XM this week. I always have it tuned in to XM 91. I'm listening to the college sports and listening to the Paul Feinbaum show, which is a national-based show. And, you know, he made the point that these penalties are still being adjudicated in the courts of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And what we're seeing now with the NCAA, right or wrong, is really uncharted territory. So I think you'll be able to look back on this in 1, 3, 5 years and have more perspective on it than maybe what we have right now. Maybe it's too soon to tell, but I can tell you there are a lot of nervous people right now at the University of Miami, at North Carolina, where they're going through an academic scandal, at Miami, where they now have a second round of violations that have been uncovered in the last 10 days. You know, it's unprecedented territory, and Mark Emmert is a take charge, very high profile leader of the NCAA, something we've never seen before.
We've got about 2 minutes, and I want to invite you on now sometime in late September to talk more specifically about Towson athletics.
Sure.
But has what happened at Penn State, you're kind of, at your age, where you are in your career, you could be a guy that could fast track to a higher profile position. Does this give you pause to say, you know what, Towson kind of gets it in terms of what athletics should be, the perspective?
I love where we are
at
Towson. I love being in the Colonial Athletic Association. We're going to emerge from our summer of love, so to speak, to where we have a stronger conference. I work with
ranked
great
number
coaches.
1, by the way, in the preseason polls. Congratulations.
Thank you. Very proud of what Rob Ambrose is doing. And as I was talking to Rob, who's the reigning National Coach of the Year from the 2011 season, when I was talking to him, he was talking about what his talking points were going to be today, and that was exactly it. He was going to talk about what a great time it is to be a Tiger and to be at our level. You know, we're a strong athletics program that's going to get stronger in time, and you can still have relationships with your families. And that's one of the things that once you go to the higher level, and I've been at some great schools, Carolina, Virginia, Cincinnati, West Point, you lose that ability to have a life outside of your job. So I love it here at Towson. We're excited about a big 2012-13 brand new arena going to open up in March of next year. We're ahead of schedule with Tiger Arena, so it's a great time.
Mike, you're doing a great job over there, and thanks for coming in. We wanted to have somebody that could speak to these issues. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Stan.
Stay tuned. After the break, I'll be joined by another friend. They're all my friends. Ray Schulte of SchulteAuctions.com, so don't go away. Inside PressBox is presented by Friedmont Mortgage. Don't make a 30-year mistake by choosing the wrong lender. Go to Friedmont.com now for all of your mortgage needs.